Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
All right, welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast, the first podcast of 2020, first podcast of the year. It's the first podcast of the decade. I hope at this point you are really excited. We just got done filming an accounting series for Tower University yesterday. We've got leadership retreats coming up. We've got all kinds of things going on and large scale workshops and so many amazing things happening. I think at this time of year, there's lots of energy. There's lots of enthusiasm. Depending on when you're listening to this, I'm recording this on January 8th, my daughter's birthday. So it's a great time of year. It's a time of focus. And it really doesn't matter what time of year you're listening to this. At the end of the day, we're always looking at rebirth and regeneration and new ways to do things. And I think life is always about becoming and getting better. So depending on when you listen to this, it could be August 21st and it's still a good message and it's a good thing to think about. And what I really want to talk about today is, my focus a lot of this on this podcast. I think if you listen to a lot of the earlier podcasts, we talk a lot about numbers and sometimes I'll jump into numbers. But one of the things I learned a long time ago was that it's not just about numbers. I can't just teach you about numbers. One of the reasons why I created Tower Leadership was this idea of that I can't just grow your business because if I don't fix you as a leader, then it'll just fall apart. And so I need to create leaders within organizations and I need to create individuals and team leaders and people that want to do amazing things and impact. And it's we want to shortcut that sometime, especially at the beginning of a year, we want to shortcut that process. And how can I lose 30 pounds in 6 days and whatever new diet that's come out. But what we realize is that it's what you become along the way. One of my mentors, Jim Rohn, years ago was talking about the fact that he lost $2 million. And at that time, that was all he had was $2 million. And when the $2 million went away, he said, well, that's it, right? I've got nothing left. And he went back to his mentor, Earl Shoaff, and was like, oh my gosh, I've lost everything. And he said, it's not that, it's what you became along the way. It's what you became on the process to becoming a millionaire. It's really who you become, right? And so we set these goals at this time of year, but the question is, who are we becoming? And I think that's a very, it's an important question. I was actually with my trainer this morning when we were having this conversation and we were talking about whether physical training sticks or not and how long people stick with it. And I was saying, it's only going to stick when someone becomes somebody else, right? In a sense, they've got to become a person who in their life becoming physically fit is a must. And they look back at the person they were and they go, I'm a completely different person and somebody who must be in shape all the time and eat well. And so that, what ends up happening is people try these new fads and diets. And then what ends up happening is it falls apart because they're still the same person, just trying a new technique. What the heck does that have to do with dental wealth and what we're going at? Well, I want you to think about this for a moment. As we think about this year and rebirth, and I hope you're listening to this, with kind of that mindset, is that I want everyone to become extremely, wealthy listening to this. I want you to change your life and do amazing things. But what does wealth mean? And it really comes to, I can give you all the tools that you could possibly imagine to change your practice and your business and your life, but it's really who you become, right? And interestingly enough, you attract who you become. So when I say that, if you learn how to make $5 million, nobody can strip that from you, right? And it's the relationships you built along the way. It's the people you attracted along the way. It's interesting when I look at my highest, most successful clients, they have so many relationships, whether it's relationships with me, relationships with other people. They hang out with, and they tend to hang out with successful people who are trying to become more and attract more and become more valuable. Well, let's break that down a little bit more. And I'll think about this and think this is a time of year where one of the biggest, I think, mistakes you can make, and I'll tell you why that is in a second, but it's like we listen to everyone this time of year go, well, I want to lose this much weight and I want to lose that. And I want to, hit this revenue goal. And everything you listen to is completely inward. Me, 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 me. And I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of people actually don't hit the goals that they're compelled to hit. And I want you to write this down. And I was thinking about this podcast and it just kind of like this, I was just writing down in this, it was quotable, and it's literally this, which is outward motivation increases internal determination. Who do you want to impact this year? Like, whose life do you want to change this year? And I never hear anybody this time of year go, oh my gosh, it's like 2020. It's a new decade. It's a new year. I cannot wait to go impact so many people's lives. And I want to change, my team's lives and my community and my family. And like, how often do you hear that? Probably never. I don't hear it from people. Everything's me, 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 me. And I think it's one of the reasons why people don't stick with their New Year's resolution is because everything's internally motivated. And you'd be surprised what drives people out of bed in the morning, what helps people create amazing organizations is the desire to impact people's lives, to make change, to make impact. Is why I love dentists, is because it's about it's a service-driven industry about changing and affecting people's lives. And what happens is we get to this time of year and we kind of dust off our old goals, or maybe we add some to, our new goals. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be internally focused, because I think there's a lot of that, but I'm saying one of the ways to become internally focused and improve yourself is to actually start thinking outward. Like, who in my family do I want to impact in the next 12 months? If I was to hit these goals, because then you can write your goals. Like, if I was to hit this goal, who on my team would I want to impact? Who in my community? What other organization? Maybe it's my church. Maybe it's my school. Like, if I was to do this amazing and have this amazing year, I want you to take the time and stop this and write, like, who would I impact? And maybe it's who must I impact this year? Like, for this year to be successful, for me to feel like I'm creating wealth, who would I need to impact? Like, whose life would I need to impact? And start there. Why don't you start there and say, and then you can kind of go backwards to your goal. So for instance, is for me to be able to take my family to do X, I would need to make this much revenue and have this much time off. So therefore the practice would need to be doing this much in revenue. I would need to maintain this much profit margin, and I would need to be physically fit enough to be able to do whatever. And so what happens is we then go backwards towards our goals. In effect, we go outward for our motivation, which increases our internal determination. So what happens is we get focused on hitting our goals because it actually becomes a must, because it becomes something that becomes compelling, not a should. See, it's like when you it's hard to get motivated to say, well, this year I'm going to make this year I did $1 million in revenue, and next year I want to do $1.2 million. That doesn't really excite anybody because there's no purpose around it. You got to create purpose in your life. And because the person who then becomes outwardly motivated has a different attitude, they walk differently, they talk differently, they attract other people, and they become somebody who's a whole different caliber. And by the way, you'll attract people that think the same way. So what ends up happening is when you want to impact other people, you'll attract people that want to impact people. Talented people, successful people, people that you'll want to bring into your life, and you can share your vision and they'll share theirs. And you'd be surprised that some of the relationships that I've built around me just by wanting to help other people it's insurmountable. I've got one of the most talented people come to spend some time with me for the next day or two. I feel so blessed just because of the fact that she's driven by my motivation. And so it's interesting how we can create the life we want sometimes by looking outward. Remember, you attract what you become. Successful people want to hang out with successful people that provide value. Successful people don't want to just hang out with people that are just internally motivated and it's me, 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 me. How can I help you? I sat down with a group of business owners recently, and I helped one of the guys in the group make millions of dollars, and it was just advice that was given for free, providing value for his life. He can provide value for my life. It's looking outward and saying, how can I help the people that I spend time with to become more successful in their life? And by helping them become more successful and helping my team become more successful, I in turn become more successful. So here's what I consider doing, like throw off all the other stuff for a moment that you've been doing year after year. And I want you to just stop and write down in this year, who would I want to impact? Whose life would I want to change? Who could I, if I did hit a huge goal, who could I just change the trajectory of their life? Let that be the driver of your goals. Then come back and say, I would need to accomplish this to be able to provide that. That gives you the motivation and the determination. I'm telling you, that's where this thing starts off. It's the reason why average people get average results, because they think like average people. Above average people think about whose life they can change and what impact they can have in the world and how to use their passion to change lives. Small-minded people think about me, and how it affects me and my goals and my life and that's the difference. That's what the average person does about this time of year. And I want to encourage you to shut that shit down. Focus on becoming a better you and go change people's lives. And so I'd start there with your goals, and you'll be surprised when you're that focused. And I'd look at it as much as possible. Try to look at it every day. And then that'll help you become focused on hitting your goals, because it'll give you purpose to hit your goals. And then look at that more often and make sure you're on pace to hit that. Do that, and you'd be surprised at what can happen this year. Hey guys, I hope you've appreciated this. Guys, we're off to a great year. We're going to be shooting a lot of podcasts. We're going to be sending a lot your way. Get involved. I mean, this is there's a lot of platforms where I put a lot of the very in-depth, a lot of the mathematics and stuff. On this platform, I'm going to talk to you about a lot of concepts that can really change your life if you put them in place and provide a lot of wealth, both in your life and in your practice. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're on LinkedIn, wherever you're at, follow, hit subscribe. I mean, this is a great way for weekly information, where it's such a great time. That literally we get notifications on this device that we carry around that tells us it's time to listen to something amazing, right? I mean, what a great thing to have happen, and listen to it on, and I call it nerd time, the time you're driving home, and listen to something, and don't just listen to this stuff, put it in place and get engaged and be part of it. Look, we've got giant leadership retreats coming up where we got hundreds of people coming in. We've got, acceleration programs where we break apart how to really all the different dynamics of growing a business. We've got, leadership, growing leadership teams and helping you organize your business. There's so many ways to get involved. The more you invest, whether it be your time or resources, the greater return you're going to get. Don't have a scarcity mindset. You have to have an abundance mindset. Invest in you, invest in your business, get engaged, make the time, start outward, and then it'll give you the motivation to do all those things. And it can have a dramatic impact on your life and the way things turn out. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed. Have a great week.